Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It's on the record now, Paul.
Question number 6, the Honourable Darren
Thank you,
Hughes.
Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my question is for the Minister of Transport and asks, did he consider opinion polls about public views on cutting the blood alcohol limit for driving, and what role, if any, did it play in the government's decision not to lower that limit?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Transport, we considered a range of factors, and public support was one important consideration, but we also need to know the exact level of harm caused by drivers with a blood alcohol level of between 0.05 and 0.08. I've said all along as Transport Minister that road safety measures only work if they have the very broad support of road users. We want to be sure New Zealanders understand the benefits of any change and accept it before proceeding. And what we've done with the cell phone rule, what we've done with drug driving provisions and illegal street racing laws.
The Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, when the Minister told the House that a broad level of public acceptance would be required before he would move on this matter of lowering the blood alcohol limit, was he aware of the New Zealand Research poll and, admittedly, an unscientific close-up television poll of 17,000 viewers, both of which, regardless of whether they were scientific or unscientific, showed support for that measure in the 60+% range, showing that there is support in the community for lowering the blood alcohol limit from 0.08 to 0.05?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, I've seen a broad range of polls with all sorts of different numbers, and I think if you analyse them all, are about 50-50 on this particular issue. What I found interesting was that in that member's press release today, he's quoting some UK drug and alcohol expert, Professor David Nutt, who in actual fact in the UK hasn't been able to convince the authorities over there to lower the blood alcohol limit because it's still currently 0.08. That professor should concentrate on his own country.
Michael Woodhouse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Supplementary to the Minister. What measures is the government taking to crack down on drink driving?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Transport, last week the government announced a package of road safety initiatives targeting drink drivers and in particular repeat and young offenders. The package includes a zero drink drive limit for recidivist drink drivers, a zero drink drive limit for drivers under 20 years of age, much tougher penalties for dangerous, reckless driving causing death, the introduction of alcohol interlocks for repeat drink drivers and serious first-time offenders. By targeting high-risk offenders, namely those with a history of offending and young people, we're confident we will make a significant impact.
The Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, given that Professor Nutt is in the gallery today watching this expert minister answer these questions such a non-partisan way, maybe he could explain to the country how any research in... very sensitive.
The Honourable Jerry Brownlee.
Is that an appropriate reference, first to the gallery and secondly to the Minister?
I think it's a perfectly fair point of order that the Leader of the House has made. There should be no reference to visitors in the gallery. The Honourable Darren Hughes.
I apologise for that, sir. I also apologise for referring to the Minister as an expert. Sir...
Order. Order. At least the member did apologise, but I'd ask for a little courtesy to his asking a question.
Can the Minister explain to the House how research specific to New Zealand can be any different to the over 300 studies already done comparing a blood alcohol limit of between 0.08 to 0.05, and what factors in New Zealand are so specific that make those other international studies irrelevant for deciding to move on this issue?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Transport, there's very little data that's been collected in New Zealand to do with those that are pulled over and have a blood alcohol limit of between 0.05 and 0.08. And we want to ensure that the New Zealand Police are able to collect that data because we need hard data to make any decisions in the future. It's also interesting to note that I saw a comment from a member. If we're going to change the limits, there would need to be hard evidence. And I must say this this quote came from the Justice Minister, Phil Goff, in 2001. So once again we have Labor MPs not agreeing with their leader.
Point of order.
Point of order, Honourable
Mr. Speaker, my question asked the Minister what factors were unique about New Zealand, what factors. He's given us an answer saying police don't have enough data. I'm interested in why the government said what factors are motivating the government in order for them to delay a decision on this matter. It's not a question of what statistics are being collected, it's what factors the government believes are different about New Zealand so that they can't rely on the international data that is available.
Well, order. The member raised a point of order. I mean, in answer, the Minister said that the government believes it needs more research on the difference between 0.05 and 0.08, and without that research, I presume he's saying that they don't necessarily know the factors involved. And it seemed to me a reasonable answer. The Honourable Darren Hughes, supplementary.
Does he accept that the delay in deciding whether or not to lower the blood alcohol limit will cost lives on the road in New Zealand?
The Honourable Nathan Guy.
Well, on behalf of the Minister of Transport, unfortunately we lose lives in this country almost on a daily occurrence, and the government has made some very big, broad decisions in terms of addressing alcohol concerns that the public has in New Zealand and that drivers have. And I've just alluded to those, Mr. Jones, just before. If you're listening, welcome back. And the important thing is that we are addressing this. We want to collect this data over the next 2 years to ensure that we get any future decisions made, and we want to bring...
Point of order, the Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm no clearer as to whether or not the decision will cost more lives on the road by delaying a decision on the blood alcohol limit from 0.08 to 0.05. That's the only thing I'm interested in. I'm not interested in the other matters that the Minister is concerned about. It's a very short, simple question.
Well, Order, the problem is it's a speculative question. How can the Minister know that? And that's why it's extraordinarily difficult for the Minister to answer such a question in precise terms, because he has no research to indicate, so he tells us, whether it will have an effect. And that's why it's difficult for me to insist on any particular answer from the Minister with that question. Question number... the Honourable Darren Hughes.
Mr. Speaker, if the government is concerned about the community support for lowering the blood alcohol limit and is concerned about whether or not there is support for them to do so, will the Minister accept an offer from the Labor opposition and from many other parties in this House for a non-partisan approach to this topic of the blood alcohol limit and support the bill that I put into the ballot today in order to lower the blood alcohol limit down to 0.05 so that the national... Yeah, it was 9 years, that's correct. And now we're here today to try and make sure we can do something about this issue. So the government can yell and scream during my question as long as they like, sir, but the issue remains and it needs to be sorted out.
Order. Members are making it impossible to hear the Honourable Darren Hughes' question, but I think the Minister got the purport of the question. The Honourable Nathan Guy.
On behalf of the Minister of Transport, it's interesting that we've had 9 years of the previous government, and I just alluded to that before when Mr Goff said they would need hard evidence and then chose to do nothing subsequently for the following 8 years. This member now wants to play purely politics with this issue when they've had a period and done nothing. We've done more in the first 2 years of this government to address road safety measures than that government's done in the last 9 years.
Order. Now, on this occasion, I do have to accept the member asked whether the Minister would support a bill that the member was described that would be introducing into the House, and the Minister made no reference to the bill whatsoever. It would be helpful to the House if the Minister were to answer that fundamental question.
No.
Thank you. I thank the Minister. Question number 7, Jackie Dean.
Thank you,